What's up, guys? Steven Masso here, and you are listening to Via the Source. Now, in today's video, we're going to be discussing why is Tua Tagovailoa not starting Week 1 for the Miami Dolphins. And if you keep up to date with the team, some of these reasons may not be surprising to you, but this is more in response to this narrative that the national media was pushing, saying that Tua had the talent to beat out Ryan Fitzpatrick, which has kind of left a ton of people shocked. Well, then why isn't he the starter right now? And in the writings kind of been on the wall that Ryan Fitzpatrick would be the starter day one. So in this video, we're going to be going over why Tua is not starting Week 1 for the Miami Dolphins. Now, if you would have asked me before the draft, would Tua be starting Week 1? I would say no, but I would say it was because of his injury. I would say that it needs to be properly healed and that there was a high risk for it being re-injured. But as of right now, there is nothing to indicate that his injury is holding him back in any way. All signs are pointing to it being perfect in terms of the healing process. There are no indicators that it is holding him back in terms of mobility, in terms of him incorporating his hips into his throwing motion. His accuracy looks fine. His arm strength looks good. There are no issues with the injury. The only thing that could be seen as an issue still is that Tua himself said that he doesn't know how it's going to feel when he gets hit until it happens. You know, getting hit by a guy who's 250 plus pounds running full speed with helmet and pads on is something that you can't really simulate until it happens, and he said that he won't know how it feels when he gets hit until it actually happens. But aside from that, everything injury-wise doesn't seem to be the reason why he is not starting Week 1, so that is a huge positive for the Miami Dolphins and anyone who is a fan of Tua, because the guy is so likable, it's hard not to be a fan of him. Now, as for the reasons why he is not starting Week 1, I'm going to be going over two primary reasons, and the first of those is simply that he needs a little bit of time, and I'm saying just a little bit. I'm not saying that he needs the 3 years that Aaron Rodgers had behind Brett Favre, or maybe he could use a full season behind Fitzpatrick like Mahomes had with Alex Smith, or maybe he could go in through halfway through the season. Whatever is the case, the Dolphins at least feel comfortable enough that they did not keep Rosen, they released him, and they feel comfortable that Tua is the number 2. So that is an indicator that he is pretty ready, but he just needs a little bit of time to learn. Now, is it something that you should be worried about that he didn't beat out Ryan Fitzpatrick and that he still has something to learn? Absolutely not. You have to take into consideration that how the coronavirus affected the offseason, how it affected training camp. I mean, there was no preseason, which would have been a huge a tool for him to be able to work on his game and to see some live action. He didn't have that at his disposal. It was a very odd and bizarre offseason due to all the restrictions from the coronavirus. So take that into consideration. And then he was also battling back from the injury. This was his first time in pads. He is still easing back into things, but he has been making drastic improvements. Early on, he was really struggling in practice. There was an instance where he threw several interceptions in one day, and then they had a scrimmage, and he had an interception, could not throw a touchdown. He didn't look terrific, but as time went on, he started showing improvements, and everyone is very optimistic that he will be able to take over this role. He just needs to be able to learn just a little bit, and that brings me to point number 2. Who is the person that he is learning behind? He is learning behind Ryan Fitzpatrick. And I think the first thing that should have been an indicator off the bat that Tua wasn't going to start Week 1 is that the Dolphins brought in Chan Gailey, who worked on several teams with Ryan Fitzpatrick. He worked with Ryan Fitzpatrick when he was the Jets offensive coordinator, and then he worked with Fitzpatrick when he was the head coach for the Buffalo Bills. So you cannot tell me that they brought in Chan Gailey with the idea in mind that Ryan Fitzpatrick was never going to be a starter. That really doesn't make sense to me. At some point, Ryan Fitzpatrick was going to start, and they obviously viewed Chan Gailey as somebody who could bring the best out of Ryan Fitzpatrick and in turn teach that to Tua. So I think that's all valuable information. We've heard countless times that Ryan Fitzpatrick went to Harvard. The guy is extremely intelligent, but not only that, it seems like he's been on just about every team in the NFL. He has been on countless different offenses. So the amount of information through all that experience that he has is so valuable to be able to pass on to a guy like Tua, but I think it should have been an indicator off the bat. They bring in Chan Gailey, a guy who could bring the best out of Fitzpatrick Fitzpatrick, that should have told, I think, everybody that he was at least going to be starting at the beginning of the season. Now, Ryan Fitzpatrick, I know some people who don't really follow the Dolphins, at least last season, may view Fitzpatrick as just that streaky quarterback who strings together a few good games and collapses in key moments. But last year, Ryan Fitzpatrick even surprised me because he was so much more than that. He was the heart of this team. He led the team in rushing yards, and when he was running out there, he wasn't sliding. He was literally, you can go watch videos of it, trucking linebackers and taking them head on, getting super fired up and rallying this team that a lot of people were accusing of tanking early on in the season. So he was extremely valuable to building the confidence of some of these young guys, to getting the chemistry and the camaraderie in the locker room to the level it is at right now, and I don't want to downplay that. So I still think it's very important that they have Ryan Fitzpatrick as the leader right now. Let him be the bridge to Tua, which he said he is already aware that he is, so allow him to be that bridge, transition smoothly, and I think this could be a picture-perfect situation for the Miami Dolphins when they finally get Tua out there as a starter. But I don't think they're in a position right now where anyone should be begging for them to throw him in or putting pressure on Fitzpatrick. Just let it happen. Trust the process. There is a plan in place, and I think the rebuild right now is coming along fairly smoothly. And if you look on the screen, I have a little quote here that Tua said when discussing Fitzpatrick. He says that saying goes true. It says, if you want to get somewhere fast, you go alone, but if you want to do it with purpose, you bring people with you. And I think Fitz has done a tremendous job at trying to shape and mold me and Josh as well, close quote. And I think that's just kind of a testament to what kind of person Tua is and what kind of person Ryan Fitzpatrick is as well. So guys, a quick summary. Is the injury that Tua sustained back at Alabama something that is holding him back? The answers to that right now, everyone is saying is no. So that is a huge positive. The reasons why he is not starting is simply because he needs a little bit more time, and that is not a bad thing. The coronavirus has affected the offseason, so let him transition to being a professional at his own pace. And then Ryan Fitzpatrick was the leader of the team last year, is still extremely valuable given his experience and what he brings to the locker room. So all that is why Tua was never really going to be the starter week 1, but that is not a bad thing at all. So guys, if you want to hear more, I do an NFL/Miami Dolphins focused podcast that is on the Apple Podcast app or on Spotify. So if you're interested in that, I get some locker room access. I'm able to speak with the players on several occasions. If you're interested, please check it out. Leave a review if you like it. It would mean a lot. It would be a huge help. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can at Via the Source or at Shady Steven. If you want to follow my personal Twitter, I do have some giveaways planned in the future, so you may want to check that out. And if you could subscribe, I would be extremely grateful, and I would definitely find a way to give back to all the YouTube following that I have thus far. You guys are awesome, and I'm extremely grateful for all the support that I have gotten from y'all. Until next time, though, I'm Steven Masso, and this was Via the Source.